Nobody remembered a time when the fear scanner had failed. The device stood at the heart of Galactic Fleet Academy like a monument to truth. It was older than most civilizations in the known galaxy, a towering arch of crystal and metal that glowed with soft blue light. For 4,000 years, every cadet who wished to serve in the fleet had walked through it. And for 4,000 years, it had shown the universe what they were truly afraid of. Today was assessment day. 47 cadets waited in the White Hall, watching holographic displays flicker above the arch. Each display showed the deepest terror of the cadet passing through. It was not meant to shame them. It was meant to help commanders understand their soldiers. If you knew what could break someone, you could protect them from it. Chief Evaluator Kira Voss stood beside the arch with her 4 eyes scanning the crowd. She was Theshan, tall and silver-skinned, and she had overseen 300 assessment days without incident. This would be her 301st that a Valoran cadet stepped through first. He was massive, scaled, with 4 arms that could crush stone. The display above him flickered and showed a single image, darkness without any connection to his people. His fear was isolation from the hive song that linked all Valorans together. Kira nodded and marked her tablet. Expected. Understandable. Next came a Karathi female, small and furred with 6 legs. Her fear displayed as deep water. Her species had evolved on dry plains. Water meant death. Then a Morthian, a being of living gas contained in a mechanical suit. Its fear was solidification. To become solid was to become dead. One by one, the cadets passed through. One by one, their fears made sense. Then came the human. His name was Danny Reeves. He was average height, brown hair, unremarkable face. He came from a mining colony called Dustfall, a harsh desert world on the edge of mapped space. His files said he was calm under pressure. His instructors said he was helpful to other cadets without being asked. Danny stepped into the arch. The machine hummed. Then it stuttered. The blue light flickered once, twice, and went dark. The display above showed nothing. Not blackness, representing a fear of darkness. Literal nothing. Empty. Blank. Kira Voss felt her 4 hearts skip a beat. She turned to the technician beside her. Run diagnostics. The technician, a mechanical being named Ron, connected to the scanner directly. His optical sensors flickered as he processed data. The scanner is functioning perfectly, Ron reported. No errors detected. Then run him through again. Danny looked confused but stepped back and walked through the arch a second time. Same result. The hum, the stutter, the silence. Whispers spread through the watching cadets like fire through dry grass. The human broke it. He has no fear. That is impossible. Kira Voss raised a hand, and the whispers died. She approached Danny directly, her 4 eyes narrowing as she studied him. Cadet Reeves, she said slowly, in 4,000 years, this device has never failed. It has scanned millions of beings from thousands of species. It has never returned an empty result. Danny stood at attention, but his expression was more puzzled than afraid. Ma'am, I do not understand what happened. Neither do I. Kira circled him like a predator examining prey. Either you have no fears at all, which is biologically impossible, or you have fears so strange that our technology cannot comprehend them. Danny was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm. Yeah, I'm afraid, Mom. Just maybe not of the things you would expect. Kira stopped circling. Explain. The scanner was looking for something specific, right? Something about survival. Something about what could hurt me or kill me. That is correct. Danny nodded slowly. Then maybe it could not find anything, because that is not what I am afraid of. The hall was completely silent now. Every cadet, every instructor, every technician was listening. Kira leaned closer. Then what are you afraid of, Cadet Reeves? Danny met her 4-eyed gaze without flinching. I am afraid of failing the people who depend on me. I am afraid that someone will need help and I will not be there. I am afraid that the people I care about will suffer because I was not good enough. He paused. I am not afraid of dying, ma'am. I am afraid of dying for nothing. Of dying while someone else pays the price for my failure. Kira Voss had evaluated thousands of soldiers. She had seen courage and cowardice in equal measure. She had seen beings face their fears and beings crumble before them. She had never seen this, that a being whose fears were not about himself at all. She straightened and looked at Ron. Escort Cadet Reeves to Examination Room 7. Notify Dr. Mora and Director Valos. Full psychological evaluation. Danny did not resist as Ron guided him toward the exit, but he paused at the door and looked back at the other cadets. They were staring at him with a mixture of awe and confusion that he was not sure what he had done. But somewhere deep in his chest, he felt that something important had just begun. The fear scanner stood dark and silent behind him, waiting for an answer it could not understand. The examination room smelled like nothing. That was the first thing Danny noticed. Every room he had ever been in had some kind of smell. Dust, metal, cleaning chemicals, food, people. But this room was perfectly neutral, as if the air itself had been scrubbed of any identity. He sat in a chair that adjusted itself to his body's shape. Across from him sat three beings who would decide if he was a miracle or a threat to Dr. Selly Mora was pollution, a species with translucent skin that showed their neural pathways glowing beneath. She was an empath, able to sense emotions directly. Her specialty was psychology across species barriers. Technical Officer Ron stood in the corner, his mechanical body perfectly still. He had no emotions to read, but his sensors were recording everything. And in the center sat Director Valos, the ancient Theshan who had led the Academy for 200 years. His silver skin had faded to gray with age. His four eyes were clouded but sharp. Cadet Reeves, Director of Valos, began, his voice like gravel sliding over stone. Do you understand why you are here? Because the scanner did not work on me, sir. The scanner worked perfectly. It simply found nothing it was designed to find. Valos leaned forward. That has never happened before. Not once in 4,000 years. Dr. Mora raised a slender hand. May I? Valos nodded. The pollution closed her eyes, and Danny felt something strange. A gentle pressure at the edge of his mind. Not invasive. More like someone knocking on a door he did not resist. Doctor. Mora's neural pathways flickered rapidly beneath her skin. Her expression shifted from concentration to confusion to something like wonder. He is afraid, she said softly. Deeply afraid. But the structure is unlike anything I have encountered. Explain, Valos commanded. Fear in most species is singular and self-directed. A Valoran fears isolation because isolation threatens their survival. A Karathi fears water because water can kill them. The fear points inward toward the self. She opened her eyes and looked at Danny with something approaching amazement. His fear points outward. It is not about him at all. It is about others. It is layered and interconnected, like a web with himself at the center, but he is not the thing being protected. He is the thing doing the protecting. Danny shifted in his chair. I do not understand why that is so strange. Because it defies evolution, Ron stated flatly. Self-preservation is the foundation of all biological fear responses. An organism that does not prioritize its own survival does not pass on its genes. Your psychology should not exist. And yet here he is, Dr. Mora murmured. Valos studied Danny with his clouded eyes. Tell me about Dustfall, Cadet. Tell me about your childhood. Danny was quiet for a moment. He did not like talking about this. Dustfall is a mining colony. 2,000 people, give or take. The planet is harsh. Sandstorms, extreme heat, limited water. Everyone depends on everyone else. If one person fails, others can die. Go on. When I was 12, there was a mining accident. A tunnel collapsed. 40 workers were trapped underground. The room was very still. I was small enough to fit through the gaps in the rubble. The rescue teams could not reach them in time. So I went in. Doro morast neural pelkis post. You were 12 years old. Yes. And you crawled into a collapsed mine to save 40 people. I crawled into a collapsed mine to find them, to guide the rescuers. It took 3 days. Valos leaned back. Were you afraid? Danny considered the question carefully. Not of the dark, not of the rocks, not of dying. He paused. I was afraid I would not reach them in time. I was afraid they would die waiting for help that was only a few meters away. And that fear drove you forward Dr. Morris said. Not away. Yes. Ron processed this information. The scanner reads self-preservation instincts. If your fear is entirely focused on others, it would register as empty. You do not fear for yourself. You fear for everyone except yourself. That seems like a design flaw in the scanner, Danny said, and no one laughed. But Valos made a sound that might have been amusement. Perhaps it is, the old director said. Perhaps for 4,000 years we have been measuring the wrong thing. He stood slowly, his ancient joints protesting. Cadet Reeves, I have seen millions of soldiers pass through this academy. I have watched them face their fears and overcome them. I have watched them break. He looked down at Danny with something unreadable in his 4 eyes. I have never encountered a being whose fears were not about himself. I'm not special, sir. I think humans just worry about different things. Perhaps. Valos moved toward the door. Or perhaps your species has stumbled onto something the rest of the galaxy has forgotten. He paused at the threshold. You will continue your training, Cadet Reeves. But you will be observed. Not because we suspect you of deception, but because we need to understand what you are. And what am I, sir? Valos did not turn around. That is precisely what we intend to discover. The door closed behind him, leaving Danny alone with his observers and the weight of a question he could not answer. 12 species sent representatives to the inquiry. They gathered in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, a vast circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Holographic translators hummed softly, converting every word into 1,000 languages simultaneously. Danny stood on that central platform feeling very small. He had not asked for this. He had simply walked through a scanner and failed to produce the expected result. Now, he was standing before some of the most powerful beings in known space, trying to explain why his brain worked differently than theirs. The Theshan representative spoke first. We have reviewed the data from the fear scanner. The device functioned correctly. Cadet Reeves simply produced no readable fear signature focused on self-preservation. A Varadi delegate rose from his seat. The Varadi were conquerors, warriors, a species that had built an empire on strength. He was massive, armored in natural bone plates, with eyes like burning coals. A being without self-preservation instincts is either broken or dangerous, the Varadi growled. Perhaps both. I have self-preservation instincts, Danny said calmly. I do not want to die. I simply do not fear death as much as I fear other things. What things? Failure, letting people down, watching others suffer when I could have helped. The Varadi snorted. Words, pretty words to disguise a defective mind. A pollution council member intervened. With respect, delegate, I have examined this human myself. His mind is not defective. It is simply structured differently than ours. The inquiry continued. More questions, more skepticism. Danny answered everything honestly, though he was growing tired of explaining something that felt obvious to him. Then the council called 2 more witnesses. Amara Singh walked onto the platform first. She was human, dark-skinned, and strong, a fellow cadet who had trained alongside Danny for months. She stood at attention and waited. Cadet Singh, the Theshan representative said, you will now pass through the fear scanner. A portable version of the device had been brought to the chamber. Amara stepped through without hesitation. The display flickered. An image formed, but it was weak, fragmented. It showed a young boy, maybe 8 years old. My brother, Amara said quietly. I am afraid of not being able to protect him. The council murmured. The fear was readable, but barely. The signal was weak because it was not focused on Amara herself. Ben Kowalski went next. Another human, broad-shouldered and red-haired. The scanner produced a similarly weak result, showing a squad of faceless soldiers. Letting my team down, Ben explained. That is what I fear most. The Vorati delegate stood again. This is a pattern. Your species does not produce normal fear responses. Explain this. Ben shrieked. I mean, yes, I do not want to die. Nobody wants to die. But if I had to choose between dying myself or watching my squad get killed while I did nothing. He shook his head. That is not even a choice. I would rather die. Silence fell over the chamber. Danny watched the faces of the alien delegates. Most showed confusion. Some showed concern. A few showed something that might have been fear that a xenobiologist from the academic delegation requested permission to speak. Earth's evolutionary history may explain this partially. Humans are pack animals. Their survival depended on cooperation. But this does not fully account for the phenomenon. Other social species still show strong individual survival fears. Then what makes humans different? The Theshan asked. The xenobiologist hesitated. I do not know. Perhaps they developed something beyond instinct. Perhaps they learned to choose what to fear. The Varadi delegate leaned forward, his burning eyes fixed on Danny. If humans do not fear death, what prevents them from becoming the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy? What stops them from throwing themselves into battle with no regard for consequences? Danny stepped forward before anyone could stop him. We do fear death, he said clearly. But we fear meaningless death. If I die saving someone, my death has meaning. That is not the same as wanting to die. That is not the same as being reckless. He looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 100 worlds. You see us as broken because we do not fit your model. But maybe your model is incomplete. You measure fear as weakness, as something to exploit. We measure fear as direction. Our fears tell us what matters, what is worth protecting, what is worth dying for. The Varadi was quiet for a long moment. And what is worth dying for, human? Danny did not hesitate. Each other. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates argued that humans were too unpredictable to trust. Others suggested they were exactly what the fleet needed. A few simply stared at Danny as if seeing something they had never imagined. Director Valos rose from his observer seat and raised a hand for silence. The council will deliberate. But I propose this. Let the humans continue their training. Let us observe them. Let us learn what they are and what they can become. He looked directly at Danny. For 4,000 years, we have used fear to understand soldiers. Perhaps it is time to understand something new. The vote was close, but it passed. Danny would stay, and the galaxy would watch. 6 months changed everything and nothing. Danny was still Danny. Quiet, helpful, the first to volunteer and the last to take credit. But the academy had changed around him. He was no longer just a cadet. He was the fearless human, a title that made him cringe every time he heard it. But he was not fearless. He was terrified almost constantly. But nobody seemed to understand that. Today was the final evaluation. A rescue simulation that would determine squad assignments for graduating cadets. Danny had been named team leader despite his protests. His squad was a mix of species that had never worked together before. Tilla was Karathi, small and furred with 6 quick legs. She was brilliant at navigation, but paralyzed by confrontation. Gore was Morthian, a being of gas contained in a mechanical suit. Logical, tactical, but struggling with decisions that required emotion. Kess was Valoran, 4-armed and proud, built like a warrior, but secretly convinced he was not brave enough. Nero was Pollution, empathic and sensitive, often overwhelmed by the emotions of others. They stood together in the briefing room, studying the holographic display of their target, a disabled research station in an asteroid field. Hostile automated defenses were active. 12 survivors needed rescue. Time limit, 2 hours. Questions? The evaluator asked. Nobody spoke. Begin. The simulation dropped them into chaos. The station was dark, damaged, filled with debris and danger. Automated turrets tracked their movements. Emergency bulkheads threatened to seal them in. The 12 survivors were holograms programmed to behave like real people in crisis. For the first 30 minutes, they made progress. Danny kept the team focused, calling out hazards, coordinating movements. They rescued 4 survivors without incident. Then everything went wrong. A simulated hull breach separated the team. Danny and Tilla were trapped in a section rapidly filling with coolant gas. Gore and Kess faced a corridor of turrets they could not bypass. Nero was alone somewhere. Overwhelmed by the fierce signals from the holographic survivors, Danny's suit alarm screamed warnings. The gas was not immediately lethal, but it would be soon. Tilla was panicking. Her 6 legs scrambled against the deck as she searched for an exit that did not exist. Tilla, Danny's voice was calm despite the situation. Tilla, look at me. She froze, her compound eyes wide with terror. I need your help. I cannot do this alone. I cannot think, she gasped. The gas, the walls, I cannot. You can? You're the best navigator in our year. You see paths nobody else sees. Danny pointed to a ventilation shaft above them. I'm too big to fit through that. But you are not. Tilla stared at the shaft. It was narrow, dark, leading into unknown territory. If you go through there, you can reach the environmental controls. You can vent this section and save us both. I am afraid. I know. So am I. Danny coughed as the gas thickened. But I'm more afraid of losing you than I am of dying here. Please, Tilla, I trust you. Something shifted in her eyes. She looked at the shaft again, then at Danny, then at the shaft. She moved. Her small body disappeared into the ventilation system. Danny waited in the thickening gas, counting seconds, trusting a being he had known for 6 months to save his life. 90 seconds later, the gas began to clear. Tilla's voice crackled over the comm. Environmental controls accessed. Venting section now. Danny allowed himself a single breath of relief before switching channels. Gore, Kess, status? Pinned down, Kess reported. Turrets have overlapping fields of fire. We cannot advance. Gore, can you hack them? Negative. They're on isolated systems. Danny thought fast. Kess, your armor can take sustained fire, correct? Yes, but draw their attention. Pull them toward you. Gore, when the turrets rotate, their coverage will have a gap. Move through it and reach the control room. That will put me in significant danger, Kess said slowly. I know. I'm asking you to trust that your armor will hold and that Gore will be fast enough. Silence. Then understood. Danny listened to the sounds of combat over the comm energy weapons firing. Kess grunting under impacts. Gore's suit hissing as he moved through the gap. Control room accessed, Gore reported. Turrets disabled. Nira, where are you? A shaky voice responded. Medical bay. The survivors, they are so afraid. I can feel all of them. I know it hurts, but I need you to use that. Tell me which ones are in the most critical condition. Help me prioritize. Nira was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was steadier. 3 are critical. Deck 7, sections 4 and 9. Danny coordinated the final push. 8 minutes remaining. The team reunited and moved together, rescuing survivor after survivor until all 12 were accounted. 4.2 minutes to spare. The simulation ended. The lights came up. The evaluator approached. Cadet Reeves, you sustained critical damage during the gas exposure. In a real scenario, you would likely have died. Danny nodded. Yes, ma'am. Were you not afraid? He looked at his squad. Tilla, who had conquered her terror. Gore, who had learned to trust emotion. Kess, who had proven his courage. Nira, who had turned her sensitivity into strength. Terrified, Danny said, but not of dying. The evaluator tilted her head. Of what then? Of not getting everyone out. His squad looked at him with something new in their eyes. Not just respect, understanding. Director Valos was dying that he did not announce it. He did not need to. After 200 years of leading the academy, his body was simply reaching its end. His silver skin had faded to ash. His 4 eyes were clouded with age. His movements were slow and careful, like a man walking on thin ice. Danny stood in the director's private office, surrounded by artifacts from 1,000 worlds. He had been summoned without explanation. He waited in silence while the ancient Theshan settled into his chair. You are graduating tomorrow, Valos said finally. Your squad has requested permanent assignment together. This is unusual, but not unprecedented. Yes, sir. You have changed them. Tilla no longer freezes in crisis. Kess no longer doubts his courage. Gore has learned to value emotion. Nira has turned her sensitivity into a tool rather than a burden. Valos paused. You did not teach them to overcome their fears. You taught them to use them. Danny was not sure how to respond. Sit, Valos said. I wish to tell you something that I have never told another cadet. Danny Saturday, the old director, was quiet for a long moment, staring at something only he could see. The fear scanner was not built for evaluation. It was built for control. Danny felt a cold knot form in his stomach. 4,000 years ago, the first galactic empires realized something important. If you know what a being fears, you can control them. You can break them. You can turn entire species into servants simply by threatening the things they fear most. Valos's clouded eyes met Danny's. Wars have been won not through superior firepower, but through psychological devastation. Planets have surrendered without a shot fired because their defenders were exposed to their deepest terrors. The fear scanner was the key to this strategy. That is horrifying, Danny said quietly. Yes, it is. Valos leaned back. Over time, we convinced ourselves that we were using the scanner for good. For evaluation. For protection. But the truth remained. We built an empire on the architecture of fear. Why are you telling me this? Because you broke the scanner. Not physically. Philosophically. The old director almost smiled. For 4,000 years, every being who passed through that device confirmed our assumptions. Fear is weakness. Fear is leverage. Fear is the handle by which all creatures can be controlled. He pointed at Danny. Then you walked through and showed us something different. Your fears cannot be weaponized because they are not about you. You cannot be broken by threatening things you value, because threatening the things you value only makes you fight harder. Danny thought about Dustfall, about the collapse mine, about crawling through darkness for 3 days because 40 people were waiting for help. Maybe the scanner breaking was a gift, he said slowly. If you cannot read someone's fear, you cannot use it against them. And if you cannot use fear, you have to earn loyalty instead. Valos was silent for a long time. I have decided something, he said finally. After your graduation, the fear scanner will be decommissioned. Permanently. Danny stared at him. Sir, we have relied too long on knowing what breaks people. It is time to learn what makes them whole. Valos stood slowly, his ancient joints protesting. You will not be remembered for this. The official story will credit the decision to scientific review. But I want you to know, you changed my mind. In 200 years, you are the first cadet to do so. Danny did not know what to say. He stood and saluted, a gesture that felt inadequate for the moment. Valos returned the salute. One more thing, Cadet Reeves. Before you go, Danny waited. Dr. Mora asked me a question about you. She asked if you ever fear for yourself. Truly, personally, for yourself alone. What did you tell her? I told her to ask you directly. Danny considered the question. He had avoided it for months, deflecting with answers about duty and responsibility. But Valos deserved honesty. Every day, Danny admitted, I am afraid that I am not good enough, that I will freeze when it matters, that the people who trust me will pay for my failures. Valos nodded slowly. So your fear is about yourself. Only because I am the tool through which others might be harmed. I do not fear dying. I fear dying uselessly. I fear surviving while others do not. Danny paused. I fear being the weak link. The old director studied him with something approaching wonder. In 200 years, I have never met anyone like you. I suspect the galaxy has not either. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Protect them, Danny Reeves. Protect your squad. Protect everyone you can. His voice was soft, and let them protect you in return. That is something humans seem to struggle with. Danny thought about his squad, about Tilla, Gore, Kess, and Nira, about the bonds they had formed through fire and fear. I am learning, sir. Valos smiled, a rare and fragile expression on his ancient face. Good. The galaxy needs more teachers like you. He left Danny alone in the office, surrounded by the artifacts of 1,000 worlds, thinking about fear and duty and the weight of being someone others depend on. Tomorrow he would graduate. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight he allowed himself to feel afraid. And that, he realized, was okay. The distress signal came through at midnight. Danny was reviewing patrol routes on the bridge of the GSV Horizon when the alert sounded. 1 year after graduation, his squad had earned a reputation for successful rescue operations. They had pulled survivors from burning stations, crippled ships, and hostile territory. They had never failed. Tonight might be different. Civilian transport wandering star, the communications officer reported. 600 passengers, including families evacuating a failed colony. They're caught in decaying orbit around the gas giant Kelos 7. 3 hours until atmospheric crush. Danny studied the tactical display. The wandering star was massive and helpless, spiraling toward destruction. Contact Fleet Command. Request immediate, sir. The tactical officer's voice was tight. We have additional contacts. Varadi Raiders. 3 vessels, intercepting course. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop. The Varadi were not coming to help. They were coming to strip the transport of anything valuable and leave the passengers to die. It was legal in contested space. It was common. It was murder dressed in the clothes of commerce, and the horizon was outgunned. Kes stepped forward, his 4 arms crossed. We cannot fight 3 raiders. Our weapons are defensive at best. We could delay them, Tilla suggested. Buy time for fleet reinforcements. Gore's mechanical voice was flat. Reinforcements are 4 hours away. The transport will be destroyed in 3. Delay is not a solution. Nira was pale, her neural pathways flickering with distress. I can feel them. 600 people. Children. They're so afraid. Danny stared at the display. 3 Varadi raiders. 1 patrol ship. 600 lives. He made a decision. Open a channel to the lead raider. All frequencies. No encryption. His crew stared at him. Sir, the communications officer asked. Do it. The channel opened. Danny stood and faced the view screen as the Varadi commander appeared. He was massive even by Varadi standards, his bone armor scarred from 100 battles, his burning eyes fixed on Danny with contempt. Fleet Vessel Horizon. You're in our hunting ground. Withdraw or be destroyed. Danny did not withdraw. Commander, I want to offer you a deal. The Varadi laughed. It was an ugly sound. Deals are for equals, human. You are prey. Hear me out. Danny kept his voice calm. I know what you fear. The laughter stopped. You fear being seen as weak. You fear your warriors doubting you. You fear that mercy is defeat. Danny paused. The scanner at the academy could not read my fears. But I can read yours. The Varadi commander leaned forward, his eyes burning brighter. You dare presume to know a Varadi's heart? No. I know what the galaxy has taught you to fear. Reputation. Honor. The opinions of your crew and your people. Danny took a step toward the screen. But I can offer you something you have never had. A victory that costs you nothing. Explain. Quickly. Let's evacuate the passengers. All 600. You take the transport ship itself. The hull, the cargo, the salvage rights. Everything except the people. Kes inhaled sharply. Tilla's legs clicked nervously. But Danny did not look away from Varadi. On record, you will appear to have driven off a fleet vessel and claim a prize. Your reputation grows. Your warriors see you as strong. In truth, you will have allowed 600 people to live. The commander was silent. You are not afraid of us, Danny continued. You are afraid of what your own people will think. I'm giving you a story where you win, where everyone wins. And if I refuse, Danny's voice hardened. Then we fight. You will destroy us. But we will damage at least one of your ships in the process. Your victory will be costly. Your warriors will question why you paid such a price for a transport that was going to crash anyway. You let that sink in, or you can take the easy victory, the smart victory, the one that makes you look strong without firing a shot. The Varadi commander stared at Danny for a long moment. His crew watched from behind him, waiting. You are either very clever or very stupid, human. Probably both. Another silence. Then the Varadi made a sound that might have been a laugh. Take your passengers. We claim the ship. The channel closed. The bridge erupted in activity. Shuttles launched. Rescue teams mobilized. 600 passengers were transferred to the horizon and nearby civilian vessels over the next 2 hours. Families clung to each other. Children cried. The elderly wept with relief. The wandering star fell into the atmosphere of Kelos, 7 with the Varadi raiders close behind, claiming their prize as it burned. Nobody died. Later, Admiral Kiravas reviewed the incident report. She summoned Danny via hologram, her 4 eyes sharp with something between concern and admiration. You risked everything on a bluff. It was not a bluff. Danny replied. I understood what he feared. I gave him a way out that did not require him to admit it. That is a dangerous game. Maybe. But 600 people are alive tonight. Kira Voss was quiet for a moment. The fear scanner is being decommissioned next month. Director Valos's final order before his death. She paused. He mentioned you specifically in his notes. He said you showed him that fear could be something other than weakness. Danny thought about the old director, about the conversation in his office, about the weight of changing someone's mind. I hope he was right. So do I. The Admiral's expression softened. Continue your work, Lieutenant Reeves. The galaxy needs more people who understand fear the way you do. The hologram faded. Danny stood alone on the observation deck. His squad found him there, one by one. Tilla, Gore, Kess, Nira. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. The scanner said you had no fear, Tilla said quietly. The scanner was wrong. Danny looked at his team, his family forged in fire. I am afraid all the time. Afraid of failing. Afraid of losing you. Then why do you keep doing this? Kess asked. Danny smiled. Because the things I fear losing are the same things worth fighting for. The stars burned on, indifferent and eternal. But in the small circle of 5 beings standing together against the void, something new had taken root. Not fearlessness, something better, connection.